All right, this is pre-algebra lesson 1.4, integers and absolute value. Okay, first of all, what is an integer? What's an integer? You guys don't know what an integer is? What's an integer? It's a whole number. It's a whole number. 1.3, is that an integer? No. What about 3 and 1/4? Is that an integer? No. What about -6? Yes, that's a whole number. 4 billion, yes. As long as it is a whole number, it's an integer, okay? Generally, when they start talking about integers, at least in class like this, they're talking about how we have to now, you guys have been dealing with integers since, what, preschool? Right? Counting to 10. But when they're talking about it now in like pre-algebra and algebra, they're talking about how you now have to kind of deal with positive and negative numbers, okay? Anyway. All right, so here's the deal. This is what you kind of have to understand. And I know that you should have gone over this a little bit last year, wherever you were at. But integers they're not just positive numbers, they can be negative. Our number line, when you were in kindergarten, what did the number line look like in kindergarten? How did it look like above the chalkboard or above the whiteboard? It simply started here at 0, right? And then it went 1, then it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And it went all the way up to probably 20. In kindergarten, that's how your number line would have looked. It would have kept going, all the way to about 20. Right? The problem is that this is a little bit of a lie in kindergarten because it's not a number line. In kindergarten, it's a number, what's the word? In kindergarten, they would call it, really should be called a number ray. Why is that? Because in kindergarten, you just start at 0 and you go to 20 and that's it, right? In kindergarten, is there anything that direction? No, and they don't even talk about that, right? So technically, a number line means that it goes forever that way, and it also goes forever that way, right? There's just as many negative numbers as there are positive numbers. And so that's why now that you're in pre-algebra, you really have to have a good grasp of negative numbers. So we have to have an excellent grasp of negative numbers. And so, a lot of times we will start with things that are real simple and right near 0 so that later down the line you can understand the concept as to how to deal with things that are further away from 0. But the number line actually should look like this, right? And the middle would be, what's in the middle of the number line? 0, right? And then it starts going -1, -2, 1, 2, -3, -4, 3, 4. Makes sense? Forever, every direction. If I was to have a number line up here, we would have 0 in the center, and it would be going, forever that way negative, and then forever that way positive. Anyway, so let's talk about this. Can you give me some examples in life when when we actually, like on a daily basis, use negative numbers?
Maybe if you have like a debt or something, you can have like -$20.
Okay, debt, absolutely, yeah. Debt is one way for sure, right? If you can go backwards, yeah. Okay, I like that. That's good. What else? What's another way you could go have a negative number on a daily basis? What if you lived in Alaska? What might be true about Alaska? The weather, right? It could be, if it's in the winter in Alaska, you could easily be, minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really cold, right? Below 0. Okay. What about sea level, right? When you're scuba diving and you are down under the water, where are you at in relationship to sea level? If you're 10 feet under the water, where are you at? You're at minus 10 feet, right? You're at minus 10 feet. So anyway, we use negatives all the time. We actually drop it in the negatives all the time. And now that you're in pre-algebra, we are going to use negatives, and we're going to drop it in negatives all the time. I would say it's not half the answers are negative, but it's probably a third of all the answers you're going to give me are going to be negative. So you got to get a good grasp of this. So here's the deal. Have you ever heard of absolute value? has anybody ever heard of this or seen that? That right there reads the absolute value of 3. That's how you say that. The two long lines surrounding something is absolute value. So if this, listen to my words, if that is the absolute value of 3, what is, somebody read that for me, Jade?
Absolute value of 4.
That's the absolute value of 4. What is that? Read that to me. That's the absolute value of negative 4. Does anybody here know what absolute value means without looking at the book? Does anybody here know what absolute value means? Absolute value simply means the distance from 0. It means the distance from 0. So if I have my number line here, okay, and there's 0, and I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. And I was to ask you the absolute value of 2. What I'm saying is that, okay, so here is 2 right here. I'm asking you how far from 0 is 2? What's the absolute value of 2? It's 2, right? 2 is 2 away from 0. At the same time, so the answer to the absolute value of 2 is in fact 2. What about the absolute value of negative 2? Look at this. How far away from 0 is negative 2?
2.
It's 2, right? The absolute value of negative 2 is also 2. All absolute value is a distance from 0. Now here's the deal. What is the confusing part? Say the confusing part. Something that gets people mixed up all the time is this. I give you a question and I say, okay, what's the absolute value of negative 8? What is the absolute value of negative 8? First of all, what does the absolute value mean?
The distance.
Distance from 0. So then what is the absolute value of negative 8? 8, right? It's 8. At the same time, if I give you this next question and I go, what's the absolute value of 6? Sometimes people might get confused and they might tell me the answer is negative 6. Because you think that absolute value means the opposite. That is not true. Here's the deal. Here's an example. Let's just say that I am right here. Me and Jade. About how far away from Jade am I? About how far? 6 feet. We'll say I'm 6 feet away from Jade. I'm now on the other side of Jade, right? I'm on the other side of Jade. About how far away am I from Jade? About 6 feet again. Does that make sense? Here's the deal. Remember, since absolute value is a distance, how can you have a negative distance? If something is separated from something, the distance is always going to be what? Positive. It's a positive distance. No matter where I'm at in relationship to Jade, no matter where I'm at, I'm 6 feet here. What about when I'm right here? Attention up here. When I'm right here, how far away am I from her? 6 feet. What about now? 6 feet, right? I'm still 6 feet. Doesn't matter. No matter where I'm at on the number line, the absolute value, meaning the distance, is going to be a positive number. I can't have a negative distance. How can you be negative? That doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
No matter how far away I am from somebody, I'm a positive distance away from them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So absolute value, the answer to an absolute value question is always positive, right? So here's the deal then. If I say what's the absolute value of negative 7 or the absolute value of 7, what's the answer to both of those? 7, right? They're both 7 away from 0. Just remember that. The answer to an absolute value question is always a positive. It has to be. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, so then let me... all right, let me give you a few of these samples here just so you can be comfortable. Okay, so tell me what this is again. Absolute value of negative 3. What is, everybody in your head, I want to see everybody's hand up when you have it. What is the absolute value of negative 3? Okay, Gigi, what's the answer? Absolute value of negative 3? Okay, it's 3. You're right. What if I did this? What if I put a negative out here? Now here's the deal. What is the absolute value of -3 again? 3. So inside of the absolute value, what you want to do is rewrite everything, and you go, okay, so that means that it's actually the absolute value of -3 is simply 3. But now this negative, does that have anything to do with the absolute value? Was that inside the absolute value? Nope. So then this would be a -3. Does that make sense? This guy here, the answer is -3. Because the absolute value of -3 is 3, and then you got to slap that negative on outside of it. Does that make sense? It should. So then what is the answer to this? If I said simplify this, what is the answer? Everybody write it down. Write down what answer you think it is. Write down what you think it is. What answer do you have? 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 Okay, here's the deal. Remember, inside of the absolute value, the answer is a positive, right? Inside it's a positive. So this part here, this part right here is a positive, right? The answer to that part is 4. This guy he's outside of that, so he's out here. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So the answer is -4. The absolute value portion, this part, is 4. But you got the negative that's outside of it. Try another one. What if I have this?
Oh, it's like a 31.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you should be done. What answer did you get, Kyla? What do you have? What do you have, Lauren? What do you have, Gigi?
31.
You have 31? What do you have?
-31.
What do you have?
31.
What do you have?
31.
What do you have? Half of you are right, half of you are wrong. Listen, this is the thing. What does this negative, is that thing have anything to do with the absolute value right now? Nothing. So inside of the absolute value, what is that? The absolute value of -31 is what? This part is 31, right? There's a big giant, this is now 31. But there's a negative out here. He doesn't just fall away. He doesn't disappear, right? He's still out there. And so it becomes a -31. The answer is -31. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Let's try another one. What's that answer? Everybody with me? Look up here. Just look up here. Tell me, what's the answer to what is simplified? Simplify that. What is that thing simplified? It's 14, right? Okay. What is that thing simplified? This is -14 because this part is 14 and I've got a negative out here that you can't just ignore. It doesn't just go away. Make sense? Okay. Okay, here's a couple of questions. Let's see this here. We'll do a little miniature quiz here. You start on your homework little thing here, whatever. Just put it somewhere on your homework. It doesn't matter. Here it is. This is greater than or less than, right? All right, here we go. Let's take a look at this. This first one. So here's the deal. When there's lots of ways to know how to do this. On the number line, right, on our number line, the numbers that are bigger are to the right. Do you agree? The numbers that are smaller are to the left. Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. So, which is bigger, -8 or 0? Which way should the open mouth be going to? Which one is bigger? See, -8 is over here somewhere on the number line, right? Where's 0? It's right here. Which one is furthest to the right? 0. So 0 is bigger. And you can ask yourself, would you rather have no money or would you rather be in debt $8? Right? Which would you rather have $0 or be in debt $8? You'd rather have 0, right? So it looks like this. The open mouth is to the right. Okay. Question, Jay? Number 2, or the second one. I have -9 and I have -2. Which one is bigger? And again, you ask yourself, would you rather be in debt $9? Would you rather owe somebody 9 or would you rather owe somebody 2? Jade?
2.
Right. This is bigger. It's more to the right. Here's -2. -9's over here. Make sense? How many of you are getting both these so far? Okay. The last one, the tricky one. Here's the deal. They're both absolute values. What is this side equal to? 6. I'll make it bigger. This side is 6. What is this side equal to? 12. Which is bigger? The absolute value of -6 or the absolute value of -12? This one, right? Because this side's equal to 6. This side's equal to 12. 12 is bigger than 6. There we go, right? So whenever you see absolute value, you need to write down or in your head decide what is that thing actually equal to. I would write it down. If I was doing my homework or whatever, I would write that down. Anyway, look at number 53. We're on page 21. Number 53, it says, complete each sentence with a word that makes it true. All blank integers are less than 0. What word would go in there? All blank integers are less than 0. All blank integers. What word would go there, Sheena? Negative. All negative integers are less than 0. Very good. What about number 55? The absolute value of an integer is never what? Negative, right? The absolute value of an integer is never negative. Right, so you guys are on. You guys are good. You're on it. Dumb questions. Okay, let's go. One last set of problems. I'm going to give you a real world situation, and you're going to tell me the integer that you would use for this situation. For example, if I was to say, right now I'm sitting on a platform that is 3 feet tall. The integer you would use is 3. Okay? If I was to say that I owe my mom $5, what integer would you use? Nope. If I owe her 5, what integer would I use? -5. Makes sense? So we're going to do a few of these. If I made a profit of $250, what integer am I going to use, Gigi? 250. What if I said that we are 10 seconds early? If we are 10 seconds early. No. Early. Right? That would be before you're supposed to be there. If when you're supposed to be there would be 0, right? Early, that would be a -10, right? What if I owe somebody $50, Brad? -50. What if I said, Amy, I'm 300 feet below sea level? -300. What if I am on the top of Mount Diablo at 4,120 feet? What am I going to use, Lauren? 4,120. Right. Makes sense? Anytime that number we're talking about is above 0, you use positive. If it's something that's below, things like before, under, debt, those are the ones that you're talking about would be negative. Makes sense? Yeah. Absolutely. Right now, today, we're only talking about integers, right? Which are whole numbers. We need to get our brains wrapped around whole numbers, and then we absolutely will start dealing with negative everything. Fractions, negative decimals, negative everything. Okay, I think you guys are gonna be in good shape. Let me give you your homework with plenty of time. I know. You're excited. Okay. Blue. There it is.